going to go into some open questions. We have room for a few questions. So Jordan, if you're available to look at the chat room, but one of the comments I want to make on this is one of the identifying issues that I think we've kind of talked around but haven't nailed yet is just the fact that we exist in a fatherless generation or a motherless generation. In other words, parenting has been diminishing over the last 20, 30 years in terms of the intervention, the engagement, the involvement that has not been there over this last season. And part of what we're seeing is therefore the fruit of the orphan spirit or the orphan mindset that kids have. And the antidote to the orphan mindset is exactly what Jessica's talking about. We've got to make time. And if we don't make time, we're really not a family. We could say our church is a family, but really it's an orphanage. And that's what we have to acknowledge is if you're just throwing people into a program, you're building an orphanage. If you don't have a vehicle for one-on-one intensive spiritual parenting, either through home groups or through some other vehicle, then you're really not actually building spiritual family. You just got to acknowledge it and just say, okay, well, I acknowledge it. Now, how do I shift in order to bring that about at this time? So I don't know if you have something to add to that, Diane.
I think that it's definitely hard to do, but I think also there's a reason that people don't know what to do. And it's hard to be relational with teenagers when you're not a teenager or you're decades away from that. And yeah, Jessica, maybe you could literally write a book for churches and
Yes.
like this is how I do it. I go through these questions. I go through this format. How do you check in week to week? What kind of things do you check in on? How do you?
We're working on it right now, just so you know.
Yeah, good. Because I know all of us on this call, I think are willing. We know ministry's hard. We've been in it for years, all of us.
Yeah.
And we know that we want to prioritize what's right. I think bridging the gap and doing it is because of these things.
Yeah.
We're somewhat ill-equipped.
Yeah.
But I do believe also that we just need to be who we are and take people the next steps and trust the Lord with it. All of the people that tend to come on Leaders Alliance have incredible wealth.
Yeah.
Of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And we just need to start where we are and gather people.
And let me just say that this is why we developed Destiny Finder.
Yes.
Is Destiny Finder is designed, it's 3 simple questions, but we give you extensive depth in each of the questions. But the 3 questions are, who are you? I want to get to know you. That's the first step of disciple making. The second step is, where are you going? What is your sense of dream or destiny that you're moving toward? And, what are the gifts God's given you to achieve that destiny? So you start to, go into depth. And then finally, how can I help you get there?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? Where are you going? And how can I help you get there? Those are the 3 essential questions of disciple making. Okay. With you keep, bringing them back to the Word of God. Okay. And so, Jessica, we want to have at least a few other questions from the other participants here. So Jordan, is there anything in the chat room that needs to be addressed first?
Yeah. So sorry, I just lost it. 1 second. There we go. Randy asked, do you find that the current generation is uncomfortable with the use of the word discipleship? Is there any other terminology you use or any other way you approach that?
Yeah, I don't, let me switch the wording. I don't think the generation is uncomfortable. I think they're unfamiliar. Yeah. So, and it's similar to what Diane's saying, because I would say the older generation is also unfamiliar, not necessarily uncomfortable, unfamiliar. And this is why. Diane's hitting the nail on the head. So many people, okay, I want to do it. I'm willing to make time. What do I do? Tell me what to do. And I have hesitated for the last few years to write anything specific because I don't want to just make another discipleship model, which is what we've done. Like, here's your 8-week course. I'm like, no. Like, that's what we're trying to get away from. No more 8-week courses, like life on life, don't give me my 8 steps, which I love that stuff. And we are creating something to help, but I think they're unfamiliar. I did a poll about, I guess now it was in the middle of 2020, called some friends, predominantly in ministry, about 20 of them. Hey, have you been discipled before? And I had one say, yes, I've been discipled.
Wow.
One.
Yeah.
And then of that one, okay, what did that look like for you? And it was actually, I'm like, yeah, that looks like biblical discipleship. It was really done. So I'm actually, I want to restore the word discipleship, give context for it, and make it unfamiliar. So I will not call it a mentorship. To me, it's not it's not the same thing. Mentorship can be done in and out of the church, right? There's so many different things. So I love what Michael's talking about like, where are you going? But there's a primary foundation I always like to lay too. Like, discipleship has to be unto you looking like Christ.
Yes.
Discipleship should include spiritual development as well as destiny, purpose development, right? Those all need to be all inclusive. So one of the things that I do when I'm going to disciple someone is I sit them down and I'm very clear. I'm going to quote Brene Brown. I know she's controversial. I don't love everything she says, but she says in her book, Dare to Lead, about leadership, clear as kind. I have adapted that within my leadership. And so when I sit down with someone, I'm very clear. I say, I feel from the Lord that I am supposed to disciple you. This is what discipleship means. This is what it's going to look like. This is what you can expect. And Michael doesn't know this, but I actually learned some of this from him, and I'll tell you how in just a second. But like I say, discipleship will require this from you, and it will require this from me. This is what you can expect, right? Because it's not that they're uncomfortable, they're just very unfamiliar. Oh, you're going to disciple me? What does that mean? Is that a once a week meeting in your office? Are you going to require me to commit to you 6 months and I'm going to have to be with you, 8 hours a day? Are you going to put me through a course? What are you going to do? They don't know. They have no idea what it means because no one's really using that verbiage unless we say sign up for our discipleship course. So they're just super unfamiliar with it. If they're uncomfortable, it's because they're unfamiliar. And when I come in and I'm clear and I say, this is what you can expect from me, I think they go, okay, great. And honestly, this isn't to toot my horn. I'm just saying there's not been one person that I've laid this out for that goes, no, I don't want that. No, like they're eager to be discipled,
Jessika,
right?
what would be the first 3 things on that list?
Of what do I expect?
Yeah, you're sitting down with me and you're saying, clear as kind, let me do it.
Yeah. So I want to emphasize this, and this is going to sound rude, but different leaders are called to disciple different types of people, even sometimes in different seasons of life. So it sounds harsh, but I disciple leaders. If you have not decided that you are committed to following Jesus and being a leader in the body of Christ, I'm probably not going to spend my time there with you. I know I have a friend, one of my best friends. She disciples people that are like, I just decided to follow Jesus and I might still be sleeping with my boyfriend. And sometimes I have drugs and I'm trying to figure this thing out. Like, that's her people. Like, she is like, I will walk you through that moment. And we need people like that. And I'm like, I will not. Like, I bless you. Let's connect you with the person who feels called to disciple you in that. And listen, we need those people. So I'm not looking down on it at all. It's just, I know from the Lord, my assignment is to build leaders. So I'm looking for leaders. So when I sit down with my expectations, I am very clear. Jew will tell you, we have had this conversation a few times. I expect you to be pioneering your own relationship with Jesus. I don't want to have to tell you to read the Bible. If you're not doing this regularly, like, you're not gonna like being discipled by me. If you're not spending personal time with the Lord, pursuing Jesus without me having to force you and cattle prod you, because I am not going to do that, I'm not the right person. Now, listen, this is not an across the board expectation. Different people are called to disciple different types of people in different seasons. The Lord may tomorrow lead me to someone and say I'm supposed to disciple them, and I need to change my expectations in a sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But for me, with who I'm discipling right now, this is an expectation. You will pioneer yourself. Jew recently decided to read was it the whole Bible or the whole New Testament in 2 weeks? New Testament. I didn't tell her to do that. She decided to do it. She decided to go fast for 2 weeks without eating while I ate in front of her every single day. I didn't tell her to do it. She decided to do it. Why? She knows and wants that one of the expectations of her is that she is pushing forward to grow closer to the Lord. I have a couple of other girls. One of them's name is Reese. She's the same way. She knows I am expecting you to be pushing forward in the Lord on your own, because that's what a leader does, right? I shouldn't have to drag you along. So that's the first one. The second one is going to sound, Michael's probably going to actually reprimand me for this later, but the second is that you listen to me.
Yeah.
And the reason that is I do not have time for you to beg you to listen. So it is not my job as a discipler to tell you how to live your life. Actually, that's not my job. As a coach, it's to ask powerful questions, to lead you, to guide you. But there are times when I will say, hey, do this. I need you to make this change. I need you to do that. And I expect you to listen. We are constantly learning. Ju, Reese, Riley, these other girls that I mentor and disciple, constantly learning how that looks for each one as an individual. Some of them need like super direct other ones don't. But here's the deal. If you and this takes time to build the trust, but if you don't trust me enough to let me lead you, I'm probably not the right person to be discipling you anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I am concerned in myself. This is something I constantly, because I'm a driver, so I constantly have to recheck that I am not being controlling, right? I need to make sure that, of course, I'm not being spiritually abusive, of course, right? These are some minimums things, but these are things that for me and my personality, I am constantly revisiting and knowing that I could be this if I get to an unhealthy place. So I need to make sure I'm not being too demanding, but at the same time, the girls I disciple know that there is a level to which I expect you to listen, right? And so we have to have conversations about that sometimes, Ju, especially because what did I tell you about that personality, right? I'm like, I'm going to push. Okay. All right. Hey, you've gone far enough. Like, either you trust me or you don't. What do you want to do? You make a decision. Let's go on. Let's keep discipling. So those are the main two that I look at, right? And that's done in a process. I didn't necessarily go like week one, you're going to do everything I say and this is the way you're going to do it. No, we went on a process of journeying together, building trust, because I can only confront you to the level that you trust me. I can only lead you to the level that you trust me. Abusers demand trust, like all of those realities that you guys know, right? So we took time to build trust, but we definitely get to a place where we go, okay, like now let's do this thing. You trust me and let's move forward. And I think like the third thing is a little bit different, but I also learned this from Michael, but to some degree, I expect you to serve in some way in my world.
Right.
And there's multiple reasons for that. The main one being I learned that from Michael. It's like, and I trust him, so I do what he says, right? doing what I say. But the second thing is investment actually produces so many great benefits, right? I want to know that something's expected of them. I want them to know they're part of the family. So we're building this thing together. It's not Jessica's thing, it's our thing. So one of the things I recently created mainly for this purpose is a youth meeting that we do on Wednesday nights. I did not need to lead a youth meeting every Wednesday night, but I needed a place for some of the local people that I'm discipling to plug in, to lead, to serve.
Yeah.
So we're doing that, right? They're teaching as well. They're part of the teaching team. They're leading worship. They're organizing. They're part of it, right?
Yeah.
So those are the main three. I'm talking way too long. I'm sorry, but those are the main three things.
No, those.
And then
there's
others.
You know, let me just interrupt here for a second, because again, I've taught everybody in this circle. I've taught them to ask the question, "Am I your pastor?" You know, John Wimber used to say, "I'm your pastor the first time I say no," and so your ability to speak in and to have them listen to what you say and do what you say is one of the preconditions I would put on discipleship. And then having them serve not only gives them a context for the discipleship, but it gives it also a context for the issues that still need to be corrected and developed within them to manifest. Because if you're just sitting across and having coffee with somebody, trying to disciple them in a coffee shop without any practical service, you're just wasting your time, because anybody can put on a great persona in that context. But when they're actually serving, that's when the rubber meets the road in terms of the revelation of the areas that they're still needing to be more like Jesus. And so it doesn't come up until they're sacrificing and serving at a sacrificial level. And so each of those three things, Jessika, are absolutely preliminarily essential.